Shea Dixon is a weekly regular here with us. He is back here on this Wednesday of game week. We're finally here. Shea is back in studio with us. Shea, thanks for diving through the traffic, getting through the traffic, get here on this Wednesday morning. Good to see you, buddy. Good morning.
Good to see everyone in here.
Yes. Pleasure.
All right, man, we're here. Game week. How we feeling?
Ready.
Yeah.
Ready. Off season is complete.
This team, since Kelly has been here, and I don't want to jinx it, but last year throughout the season and now going here into the season, very healthy, right? Like this is a healthy program under Kelly's year and change direction. Is that a coincidence to you, or is there something that there is?
Well, I mean, that's always a credit, I think, to the strength staff.
Sure,
because they get those guys in a position where you minimize or at least kind of cut down on the chance of injuries, which are always going to happen. I thought more than anything, it was clear last November that they were in really good shape. Like, like as the season went on, they didn't tire down. Now, they didn't have a lot of depth, so that showed. But I think for me, just as big as injuries is I can trust this is a team that's going to be in good enough shape to go the distance, 3-4 months of football, which we don't always see. It's tough to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. I talked to Jacques about this. You are probably a better resource on this just because you cover recruiting.
I was about to say, then Jacques? Stop
Will
that.
Campbell. Will Campbell, what he's been able to accomplish in the short time he's been here, to the expectation that he had when he showed up here, to now really kind of the future that he has kind of planted here. Like there's a high. I was telling the crew, we were talking about it earlier, I mean, a lot of stuff has to work out. There's a lot of more football here at LSU that he's got to play. Still got 2 years left to play.
At least, yeah.
But already number 7, team captain, first-year starter, played for an SEC title in his first year, SEC Western Division champs on that team as a freshman. I mean, if it all works out, he stays healthy, stays on the field, and it keeps going like it is, he could be an all-timer.
Yeah, no doubt. A combination of talent and having your head on straight. This is a kid who, remember, grew up on the farm, great parents. Every time we talked to him in high school, it's yes, sir, no, sir. Every time, I promise you, too, he would hit up Billy and I when we'd catch up with him for recruiting updates. And we knew he would have school and then football, so we'd try to catch him at other times. And he'd hit us back and be like, sorry, I've been out on the farm since 5 a.m., whatever. So, the discipline, everything's already there. So I think when you don't, I don't think he's a guy who's out there chasing clout. He's not chasing, I want to be number 7, all that. I think he just lets it come to him through his hard work. And that's what you want. And that's what a good O-lineman's built on. You got a couple of them, him and Emory Jones.
I think some of the funniest stories that I've heard in recruiting is Will Campbell, calling the staff when they were diving into the transfer portal last summer, and they were going after these offensive linemen like Tremont Shorts and these cats, and Campbell is calling Brad Davis and Denbrock and them is like, hey man, what's the deal? Do y'all not think I can play? Are y'all trying to give my spot away? And they were like, no man, we have to get depth.
Yeah, they were bringing
offensive line.
They were bringing people from the portal, and he's like, "Well, I thought I was going to play as a freshman. Is that for me?"
Y'all been telling me I was going to start at left tackle as a freshman. What's the deal?
What's the deal?
They're like, "No, you're still going to start, but
am I moving positions?
We have to try and find you a backup, man."
But that's how badly he wanted to play for LSU, and that's how good he thought he was.
How do you think?
I think it's a Monroe thing because remember, Brian Kelly shared the story of Zaylon's Hurd saying, I love Will, but I'm coming for that left tackle spot.
Right? I was going to say, how do you think he took that? Do you know their relationship? What's Hurd and Campbell's relationship?
Oh, I bet he took it as,
yeah.
All right, young fella.
Right.
I see you over there, back up, right tackle, all
right.
camp.
Right.
Not today, son.
Right.
Hold my 7 practice jersey.
I did it to you in high school. I'm going to do it to you in college.
Listening to Kelly talk about his offensive line.
Yeah, he loves it.
He loves them, right?
Mm-hmm. And he thinks they're 8 or 9 deep. Mm-hmm. When was the last time you said that about LSU? And here's what I can say, too, about Brad Davis and Brian Kelly. And I guess really speaking to Brian Kelly's history, and we knew about Brad Davis's already. If he says the O-line's good, the O-line's good. Mm-hmm. He has a long track record of teams with elite offensive linemen.
Right.
And they're not going after They're not going after like a bunch of 330 pounders because they're big guys. I mean, they are recruiting athletic options across the board. And then you can cross train guys. And then you have more guys that can play inside or out or take snaps at center but also be a guard. The future is bright on the O-line. That is one spot I do not worry about.
I agree, man. All right, real quick before we get to on the field and more on what's happening with the team. Anything in recruiting right now? What's
Don McKinley announces Friday at Acadian. I do not expect it to be LSU. I would pick A&M is where I think he's going right now.
Can LSU play back into it?
That was always the hope here. I was not under the belief that they were going to be able to get him right now. And I just think that the official visits he made in June, which went to Oklahoma, A&M, Texas, Ohio State, those schools sort of moved out front, and LSU is kind of playing to catch up to them. And they had him there at the end of July, but I think A&M dug in their heels here. And A&M got Jacoby Matthews 2 years ago, number one player in the state. They got Le'Veon Moss. They got Edgerrin Cooper, who LSU had offered, Jordan Gilbert, who LSU had offered. So whether it's kind of those four-star guys or the number one player in the state, A&M has proven they can come in here and do it. That used to be Bama's move. It's A&M's now. So I think there's going to be a lot more. And now with Texas being able to pitch the SEC, it'll be a lot more LSU, Texas A&M battles.
Is the struggle at defensive line on the coach turning over so much?
I think that there's probably a lot. Like if we're only speaking specific to Dominic, then that probably isn't the only thing. But overarching, and certainly from a national perspective, it's very tough. Like recruits and recruiting, even in an NIL era, it's built on relationships. And if every year you have a new D-line coach, you're not carrying over any relationships. For me, it's no different than Brian Kelly saying how much more confident he is in this team because the offense and defensive coordinator are back. And now everybody on the team knows him. They know what to expect. And those relationships have built over the course of a year plus. It's like that recruiting. If your position coach every year is new, then you're having to start from scratch, basically. Remember, the benefit of Jamar Cain with even guys like Deshaun Womack and others, he was coming from Oklahoma, so he had already recruited a lot of those same guys, and it's just recruiting them in a different jersey. Well, you made the move with Jimmy Lindsey. He's coming from South Carolina. He's recruited a lot of these guys in the Southeast, but then obviously the unfortunate incident, and he ends up in the hospital, and scary stuff. And I'm not going to chalk that up to anything with Dominic McKinley, but D-line recruiting in general is not helped by the lack of continuity. And you hope Jimmy Lindsey can bring that. Like, you want him to be here for multiple years so that he can have relationships with guys as they emerge in high school and then all the way through a decision, and not like playing catch up on them.
Anybody else besides McKinley right now on the watch list?
No, I think what we're keeping an eye on right now is guys as seniors who, after a few weeks of the season, might get offered. And we saw that last year with a couple of guys. Dylan Carpenter out of Santa Ma, Christian Braithwaite in Texas got an offer as a senior. And we've seen it a ton before, maybe not so much nowadays. We'll see how the future plays out. But those during the season, late in the season, Louisiana offers it. Cushenberry and Foster Morrow and Russell Gage and all those types of guys Duke Riley. Maybe you're a little bit more advanced nowadays and you know what all's out there. You've got so much more data with testing numbers and things like that you're not behind on those type of guys. Like a Foster Morrow was a top 5 tester at the NFL Combine. Like he was a star basketball player at Jesuit. His family were 2-sport athletes. His sisters all play in college. Like, you have all that data 10 times now, so you're not kind of waiting to wonder how a kid develops. You kind of already know.
What's the biggest storyline you look at Sunday? I'm curious about.
I want to see if LSU can run the football without Jaden Daniels. And a year ago in this game, and really across the first month and a half of the season, they couldn't. Remember how much we talked about that? They could not run the football. And I think that they ran it. Jaden went over 100 in this game, but what? Josh Williams had a carry. Goodwin had like 5 for 10 yards.
He was 30 yards. Noah Cain.
I think Noah Cain had 20-something yards as the leading rusher. He scored a touchdown, obviously. But they've got – and it wasn't on the backs, just the backs. Remember, the O-line was – Swiss cheese for a minute there last year as they tried out like 5 O-line combos in the first month of the season, starting every week with something new. And when I asked Brian Kelly about that this week, he said, yeah, look, y'all went to fall camp every day. We had the same 5 starting offensive linemen, and all 5 of them have started here before. You've got that continuity now. Then the run game, by default, just gets better, and you've got a lot of options. Frank Wilson's got more running backs than we got dudes in this room right now. So 8 of them, they're pulling up extra chairs in team meetings. So, yeah, talent's there is the blocking, and I would think so.
Yeah. Sage Ryan seems to have had a really good camp. What do you expect from him here in year 4?
I think it's a combination of Sage having a good camp and that they just don't have answers at corner. And that's a worry because you went to the transfer portal for 4 guys. One of them in J.K. Johnson's out for the year. I don't know how long he broke his a leg injury. Brian Kelly said no time soon. Denver Harris is not even on the team at the end and takes third-team reps and doesn't get into the scrimmage. And Deuce Chestnut and Zai took all the first-team reps as transfers, and now Deuce is getting replaced by Sage Ryan, which then I guess moves Greg Brooks down to nickel, and now you're playing Andre Sam and Major Burns at safety. So you have 3 guys at safety you really like. I guess you like Sage enough. I mean, Brian Kelly talked about his speed improving, him hitting some really impressive miles per hour numbers, his coverage ability, all that. We'll see. I think he's more suited as a nickel or a safety, but when you're an overall athlete like a Sage, it's like a Jay Ward. You don't have a choice. We're going to have to put you somewhere when we need you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where they're at. They just don't have proven corners right now.
Getting back to the offensive side, the wide receiver room is so deep and so many names. Who's realistically is going? Do they play all of them? Do they rotate all of them, or do they have a core group that they stick with?
Yeah, I think right now you see the core group would be Brian Thomas, Malik, Kyron Lacey, and then that's the starters, but very closely followed by Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson, who I think's sneaky MVP pick if he can put it together as a slot receiver and returner because he's the starting kick and punt returner now. Then I would say it's because Landon Ibiet has been hurt. If he's still not available, it's Shelton Sampson. Then you get into the freshmen, Jalen Brown and them. So out of all the freshmen, Shelton Sampson had the best camp, which I am a little surprised by.
Okay.
I thought that Kyle Parker was a little more ready. I thought Jalen, coming out of high school, I thought Jalen Brown had the speed to kind of take the top off of defense, and that element might get him out there. But it was just very clear when you put them all out there together that Shelton was the best one in camp.
Wow.
Which is good to see. Look, I went down to Under Armour, and he got nicked up the first day, and he was hurt, so you just couldn't see him when he was surrounded by a bunch of other dogs, that could go. And now you put him in that room in fall camp, and he didn't shuck to the back of the line and let guys skip him in reps, and, I don't want to go up against that guy. It was, I'm here front and center every day. He made some great catches. You've seen him at Catholic over a lot of years. Sure. He is a phenomenal player. So I think he could have a big year.
He looks like Terrace Marshall.
Built the same.
I mean, they both wear number 6. Stewie and I were talking about the other day. When you look at him, it's not just the number, though. I mean, it is physically, they look the same in kind of the way they move, the ease of the way that they catch. The ball kind of velcros.
It's very effortless for them.
Yeah, it is. It looks very easy. All right, so defensive line obviously takes a huge hit with Mason Smith, but Brian Kelly kind of said he didn't know how much he would have been available. What does him not playing this week mean, and who steps up there?
Was that an old joke's on you? He wasn't going to play anyways, so we're good. Jordan Jefferson. I think maybe the first name is Jacobian Guillory because they did show a lot of nose tackle type looks. He'd be your first team nose tackle by definition in fall camp. Like I said, a lot of those looks, I would expect he's going to play a good bit. Brian Kelly even said that. But Jordan Jefferson, look, this is why beyond depth, you go to the portal. You'll need a guy like Jordan Jefferson to step up. Well, what is his resume? He's played Florida State a bunch. He's a 3-year starter at West Virginia. He's got more than 43 games played. So, he's played a lot of football.
Right.
You plug him into a rotation and you feel good about it. And Brian Kelly said Jalen Lee, the old Live Oak, one-time LSU commit, ended up at Florida and now transferred back to LSU. He was like, look, he didn't have a good spring, but boy, did he not buckle down over the summer. Now he had a great fall camp. So the depth they've built is good. I just still think people are sleeping on Savion Jones. I think we're not talking enough about him. He is going to absolutely have a dominant season for LSU this year. I mean, think about Wiggins, Paris Shands played Womack, all those guys. He's held them all off. He's been that guy. And I think he had almost 5 sacks last year as a backup to Ollie Gay. And then at times Ojulari was playing DN. So he's a first teamer now. I think he's going to have a monster season.
The 2 transfers, Ovi and Braden Swinson.
Yeah, they're both playing edge. And Ovi's clearly been the first team. And look, he played for Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, played a couple years at Texas, had a really good game against Bama last year for Texas. So I think just between a veteran, someone who knows what he's doing, he's always going to be in the right spot. And then he did flash some in plays a year ago. So you hope he takes another step here in the final year of college and kind of has a big year for you as an edge rusher. But, yeah, he's that jack linebacker, the starter right now.
What's the coverage for the week look like on 3?
We're diving into a lot of high school, too. So I guess with this game being on Sunday, we'll have a lot of Recruits React stuff on Monday. Florida State and LSU, you can't have kids on the sideline or the locker room, but both teams will have guys at the game, coming to check them out, which was the case a year ago. So that'll be good. We're getting back into visits like that. The dead period ends this week, so coaches, if they want, can get out and hit the road again to see kids on Friday nights. Obviously, during the season, it's kind of tough to balance when and where you go do that. It's something they focus on a lot more in the bye week. But spot recruiting there, kids coming to campus. I will say this, little teaser, next week's Grambling game is going to have a ton of visitors. And look, that weekend, I think Jackson State plays Southern, Grambling plays LSU. Baton Rouge will be slammed, and a lot of kids will be in for that, so I think it'll be a good environment to see.
Shea Dixon from On3, great stuff as always. If you want to read his work, on3.com, as they are following LSU. They'll have great game day coverage for you. They'll have great recruiting coverage for you. A great team over there, and you can follow him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. You can catch him weekly every year on the show. Thank you, man.
Yeah, is that it?
That's it.
We getting kicked out?
Well,
no, you can stay as long as you
can
like.
stay as long as you want.
No, I'm kidding. I thought maybe Jordy had that Notre Dame thing going on. He had
Oh.
camera real quick.
Oh, no.
A leg cramp?
Won't catch me. Won't catch me.
Still, get the camera off me.
That's brutal.